It's happened to us all, hasn't it? We get to a point in our career where we think, need a new camera, never going to improve until I get a new camera. Well, it's not strictly true, is it? Me personally, I've bought 3 cameras in the last 15 years. And has a camera made me better? No, it hasn't. What's made me better is my learning, my process, my knowledge. So to prove that, today what I've done is I've taken out a couple of cameras of mine. So this is a Canon 7D. It's 15 years old now. You can see that, Canon 7D, with a bog standard 28-90 plastic awful kit lens on it. That was weapon of choice number 1. I'd almost forgot as well that they come with these. And second weapon of choice was the Canon R6, which I can't show you because I'm filming this with it. What I'm going to do is talk you through what I found, how it went. I only took a few pictures of our dogs on the back garden just to give you an indicator as to, although the cameras have evolved and come on no end in 15 years, that they still basically do the same things. If all you can afford is a camera that's 5, 10, 15 years old, watch my tutorial today, save yourself 5 or 6 grand. Anyway, enough waffle, let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to episode 30 of the Lance Burkitt Encounter. My God, how did we get here? 30. Anyway, today's topic is all about camera kit and your kind of crazy notion that to become a better photographer, you need to get better kit, which I'm here to tell you is a load of bollocks. And if that's what you're saying to yourself to enable yourself to theoretically make better work, if you're depending on the new kit coming in the post or going down to Wex or wherever to collect it, you're in for a big shock, because although modern cameras can do all sorts of wondrous things, they don't make great pictures without you telling them what to do. And whether you buy a camera that's 100 years old, that's 30 years old, that's 20 years old, 5 years old, or that came off the production line yesterday, the truth is they only see what and how you tell them to see things. So it's really no good in thinking or having that mentality where I buy a new camera and my work's going to be so much better. I've come across hundreds of students across the years. They've asked me that question if I buy a better camera. No better camera. So today, initially, I was going to use my Canon 40D, which is here, Canon 40D from 2008. And I couldn't get the battery to charge. It's been laid dormant that long that the battery would not bloody charge up, and I just can't be bothered to wait and go and get a new battery and stuff. So I will get it operational, but so my initial idea was to use that, the 40D, but then I know I've still got the 7D kicking about. Here's the 7D, and the kit, almost kit lens I guess, is off the 40D, and that's just a standard plastic 28-90 kit lens. Not very good really. So I gave it a bit of a clean. Dug out the old 4GB extreme cards and tried to cajole my dogs onto the back garden so I can take some nice pictures of them. All the best laid plans. A couple of things happened. Firstly, every time I opened the door to take them out, it pissed it down with rain. Don't want to be taking pictures in that. A, because it's not good for the cameras, and B, I don't like rain. And also, the dogs wouldn't do what I want them to do. Of course not. You know, they're 2 labs, they just want to go out and play, roll in the shit, not sit down, not stay still. So trying to get 2 comparison pictures where I can compare the 2 pictures side by side proved to be a lot trickier than I'd expected. But I did get a couple in the end. So the biggest part of today's episode is going to be me running through a tutorial to show you guys how I approach, or how I would approach, I do approach, editing all files, whether they're brand new files that off the camera I only bought 18 months ago, the R6, or whether they're off the 7D from 3 million years ago. It wasn't 3 million years ago really, was it? Although it feels like it. I'm going to talk you through the process. Now the process I use today is one that I learned around 2009, and I modified it slightly over the first few years of using it, but probably for the last 12, 13, maybe even 14 years I've used exactly the same process for editing my raw files. And that helps because it means that all the stuff I do in camera, the shoot process, I know when I'm shooting what I need to do to complete the pictures. And it's not because I'm crap, it's not because the camera's crap, although it is a little bit of that to be fair. It's because digital cameras, and you'll see this here, even between a modern R6, which is 18 months old, and a semi-modern 7D, which is 15 years old, there's still a bit of work to do from camera to completion. So I shoot with that in mind. I always slightly underexpose my pictures because I think that's where the information and the good stuff is. If you overexpose it, you're always kind of semi-stuck with something that you don't want. So I slightly underexpose because I know my process in Photoshop can just bring out the best from my camera stroke, digital sensor stroke, whatever it is. But you'll see as I go through these pictures that I've shot with Canon all the time because the people I kind of hung out with when I got into photography shot Canon, so I kind of followed them. Got nothing against Sony, Nikon, all them other companies. Just like Canon's stuck with it, stayed with it. Lenses kind of came with me, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm shooting Canon. But one thing, and you'll have seen me say this in previous podcasts, that the quality of colour on the Canon's not great. Example would be colour calibrate in the studio, take the shot, look at the raw file. It's slightly off. It's not what it said it was on the tin. And you'll see today between the two cameras how the colours, even if you put them on the same setting, sunlight for example today, you'll see quite a big colour shift difference when we get them into Photoshop. So bearing those things in mind, what I'm looking to achieve today is to get a picture off the 7D 15-year-old camera with a standard really cheap plastic lens, which is probably about 100 quid new. You could probably buy that camera and that lens now for probably 150 quid, something like that. I'm going to compare it to what I took on the R6, which is recording this podcast, with a L series 24-105 lens, and to see the differences. And I did actually take a shot at the end with the 7D with the 24-105 L series lens off my 6D, just to show you a comparison in difference in sharpness, even on an older body with a good lens. So that's where we're going today. And we'll start then by looking through the pictures. I had a quick look earlier. I did these around lunchtime and then I had an hour to kill, so I had a quick look through and picked a couple that I thought would be great, but maybe I've instantly forgot which ones it were I was looking at. I should have just not deleted the temp files. But looking at them, the test shots are mostly done outside. You can see pictures of Clover and Paddy here, our two lovely dogs. We'll have a look at the one of Paddy laying down first because he's a superstar. So the last one I took on the 7D with the kit lens is this one here, 1711. So I'm going to open that up into Camera Raw, Photoshop Camera Raw, and see what we get. Now, straight off the bat, it's not too bad, is it? I mean, strangely enough, even though I was focusing on his face, just for reference as well, I just used single point focus center on both cameras, so I didn't use any trickery to move focus around. I literally just set center focus on both cameras and aimed at the dog's eyes and then repositioned to get the shot. So both were shot at the same time. Sorry, both were shot using the same focal point, same focus approach. Both were shot at the same pretty much focal length and the same f-stops that I could get with the lens. There's a couple of stops difference, I think, because the cheap lens can't quite do what the expensive lens can do, but the exposures are roughly the same. You'll see that as we go along. So here's a picture of our pup Paddy. So what I'm always looking for is whether I exposed and underexposed, and you can see from this, Paddy's got a nice mix of exposure. I mean, the ball's a little bit blown out of the back because it was sat in the sun. Not worried about that. I'm looking at Paddy here. So the thing about Paddy is the blackest dog you'll ever meet, is the darkest furred animal I've ever seen. And you know, there's an old saying in photography: if photographers could have a colour darker than black, they'd have it. Well, I think we found it with Paddy. So as you can look here, look, he's as black as the proverbial ace of spades. He's extremely black in colour. So we're going to lose, if we're not careful, a bit of detail. If I bring the exposure up, you can see, like, to see his belly and his chest, we lose the highlights. We don't want to do that. That's the last thing we want to do. So the first thing I do is I'm going to reduce the highlights so I can bring some mid-tones back in his fur. So if we whack all the highlights off, look, you can see we've reduced a lot of potential overexposure around his back end and on highlights on his nose and on his bone. If I just show you that again, if I go back to 0, and then you see his bone's quite heavily exposed, overexposed. If we reduce that, it's gone. It's probably a little bit too much for this exercise, so I'm going to hit it I'm going to click in the highlights and just reduce it down to 70, because then we've still got nice highlights in it, and I know I can bring some more back if I want to without ruining anything or losing anything. So Paddy's there, but then what I want to do is bring the shadow tones back in, because obviously he's black and you can't see any detail down here on his belly, on his legs. His legs look like they just appear. So if I look at the shadows, if I wang all the shadows on, look at all that detail that comes back. I'll switch that off again. See that? But I don't want that much. I probably want about 70%. Let's just go back to 70 and see what that does. That's actually not too bad. It's probably just breaking a little noise on his fur there. So I'm just going to reduce that to 60. I can always pick this up again later if I want. So all I'm doing here so far from an exposure point of view is I'm not changing the exposure. We've got ISO 100, f10, 125th of a second. Pretty decent for outdoors. I've taken 70% off the highlights and I've added 60% shadowing just to bring that exposure back. Remember, your camera can only see what you tell it to see. It can't see everything. It can't see every zone of light. So you kind of got to get an average. And then you can use the raw file to bring things back, just like you used to do in the darkroom, you know, using chemicals or processes to bring detail back in. So I'm actually, right at this point, quite happy with that. The only other thing I'm going to do is check the colour. Now remember, I said to you, white balance can be all over the place with Canons. Doesn't actually look too bad. I'd expect to see those colours there, red, green and blue, with a red, green and blue summer's day, with the foreground here and the green in the background of the orange panel. So not worried about that. But if we just go to auto, see that drop? It's quite substantial. And if we go to daylight, so if we go between as shot and daylight, you can see that as shot is a lot warmer. And I think that's probably too warm for what I was actually looking at in the garden. So I'm going to go with daylight, because that feels to me more like what I was looking at when I took the picture of Paddy. I'm going to open that up. We'll look at the JPEG now. Having to drink black tea today because I forgot to bring any milk, so that'll teach me, won't it? So you can see now that's a picture of Paddy. It's quite nice, isn't it? 15-year-old camera, 80 quid lens. It's in focus. It's sharp. Yeah, not bad at all, really, for what it is. For 100% it, there you go. Not bad at 100%, is it? So that's picture one of the 7D of Paddy Dog. I'm now going to look at the 5D pictures, which luckily I've left the thingy, so it was, I'll just get rid of that because I don't want to preset anything. The last one of the day, which we took, was him. So again, just a reminder, this is with an 18-month-old Canon R6 mirrorless with a L series 24-105 lens. If you look at the settings, ISO 100, f10, 125th of a second, just the same as the last shot. You can immediately tell there's a difference in colour. This is nothing like as saturated as the 7D was. We'll look at that in a bit. But again, we've got the similar issue where Paddy is dark, extremely black. So again, I'm going to reduce the highlights. Only this time, I'm not going to have to take as much off because it looks like the R6 is like not really gone overboard on the highlights, even though it's the same settings. Potentially that's the quality of the lens difference, but we've not ruined anything, so I'm not worried. And again, with shadows, the last one, did I do 70% or 60 on the last one? So let's go right up to, there you go, far too much for Patrick there. 60. Probably going to hit around 40%. So I've done the same two things on the different files, just not quite as much on the R6 file. Probably because of the quality of lens difference, collecting the light in a better way. And again, I'll just show you through the colour balance. Auto did that. That's exactly what the 7D did. Daylight, slightly nicer. So as shot, daylight, as shot. So on this one, daylight is slightly punchier than the as shot one. So conversely, on the first one, I swapped it to daylight because it was a bit more realistic. On this one, I'm going to do it the other way around because I think that's more realistic. Let's have a look side by side, see how they look. Okay, so let us see. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, Paddy. Sorry, boy. Okay, so let me get both files out here. So you can see view, fit to screen, and that will view that fit to screen as well. and then we'll just try and view them side by side. It's difficult when I got two monitors running. So you can see on the two pictures there how they're very similar. The colour tones are slightly different, but we could, if we wanted to, go into either one of them. We can go back into the raw file if we want and just adjust a little more, but you can see the one on the left is slightly greener than the one on the right. And if we look at the histogram up here, they're very similar. There's just a bit more yellow and green on the left one, and you can see that visually, can't you? So that's not a big surprise. But in terms of look, condition, exposure, pretty similar. Pretty similar. I think the Canon 7D, the older shot's got a little bit more black in him here than what Paddy has here. But we can tweak that anyway. So the first thing I always do from this point on is just check. I just check in the exposure by looking at levels and just making sure these are good. Now they are. The details all the way over to the left for the shadows and all the way over to the right for the highlights, which is good. If we look at this one and go levels, we're the same again. We're all way over there. We've just got a bit more shadow on that one. I think I'm right in saying. Yeah, we've got a bit more shadows on the left hand side picture, which is the 7D, than on the right. So if I wanted to, I could go back into the raw file and just make some tweaks. Let's have a look at the right hand side one. Let's see if we can do it this way without having to go back to the start. Let's just flatten that back to one layer, and we'll go into filter, camera raw. See what it'll let us do at this point. We'll change that to auto. Oh god, no. Ooh. So I shot. So I guess we could boost it a little bit like that, and it looked like it got a bit more shadow, didn't it? That one of the 7D. Yeah, we've killed that stone dead. We'll not do that. So I'm not going to go back into the raw file. I'm just going to be happy that the colours are slightly different between the two files. If I really wanted to, I could go back and fix it all. I'm not really worried about that today. I'm happy with either one of those. This is just a bit more contrasty, I guess, and we can put that in anyway if we want to. So if we look at the two files, they're very, very similar, apart from the colours are a little different. You can see that the colour with the bone there, that's different. Highlights on the ball are slightly different. There's a bit more detail on the left. But all in all, they're similar. In fact, no. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to be lazy. I'm not going to be lazy, Lance. I'm going to do that picture again. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the R6 picture again from RAW. See if we can get a closer match in terms of colour. So if you remember, I did the reverse, didn't I? If I'm going to go to daylight, yeah, and I'm going to reduce that by 1. Let's see now how close they are. Yeah, close but no cigar. Close in terms of Paddy's look, colour, shape, shadow. Yeah, he's moved slightly on between shots, obviously, so he's a little low down on the right hand side and he's on the left. And it's possible that some came out a little bit more between shots because it took me a little minute to get swapped between cameras. But generally speaking, they're very similar, aren't they? So again, the first thing I always do is I check the levels just to make sure we don't need to pinch any. If we did decide I want to pinch some, we can have just a little bit of pinching either end like that, and then you can see we've got a bit more contrast. That already looks a little bit more like the left hand side one. So I'll just share that again. Even though it's told you that you've got detail right to the edge at both ends, which you should have with a good exposure, sometimes I will pinch them a couple of percent just to give it a bit of humph. And I've done that. So they're very similar, aren't they? So straight away you've seen, by understanding the camera, understanding the shoot settings, understanding how to position, how to focus, two cameras, 15 years apart, probably pound for pound, the R6 is probably about 30% more expensive than the 7D would have been when it first came out. The R6 lens at about 1,500 quid is certainly cheaper than the 90 quid lens we've used on that one there. And you'll see as we go along, that is where the worth is in the lens, not the camera. But you can see on these two pictures side by side that there's not a great deal of difference until you look at them at full resolution. So if we click on 100% there, and then we click on this one of the little pads to here and go to 100% on there, try and get them as side by side as we can. Oh, I hate everything. So you can see there how they're both nice pictures of Paddy, but hopefully you can see on that screen, I can see straight away, there's a distinct difference in sharpness between the two, and I hope that comes through on screen. It might not be immediately obvious to you that there's a difference there, but trust me, I'm a photographer, there is a massive difference in sharpness. If you look around Paddy's ears on the right hand side against the grass, if you look at his shine on his back, on his ears, down his front, his whiskers, you can just make out little whiskers on this shot. On here you can see them clearly. His eyes here are nice and sharp around the edges. Here it's a little bit, what's the phrase, soft. It's not out of focus, it's just the difference in quality between the two lenses is that much. So you can see an old 150 quid Canon 7D, which produces pictures that are not that much smaller in size than the R6 or any other full frame professional camera. 5186 pixels, that's what, 18 by 12 at 300, so you'll be able to print an A3 out of that, no problem without any touching it. Probably be able to print up to A1 without any worries on that. And the R6 is only 300 pixels longer at the same resolution. So that all that evolution in sensors, ISO, focal points, all that doesn't matter when you know what you're doing. If you're talking about gimmicks to get a picture to where you want it to be, gimmick yourself to death on an R6. But if you know what you're doing, cheap camera, cheap lens, and a little bit of process, which I'm going to show you now, will help you get pictures that are just as good as anything you can do on that camera you think you need, because your pictures aren't very good currently. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do this by leaving that open, but I don't know whether no, it won't let me. So we'll come back to Paddy Mark II. For this exercise, we'll just pop them back up there, so we're out of the way. For this exercise, I'm going to view it 100% so I know, and I'm going to now show you a sharpening process that I've used for years, which is the ultimate way to sharpen an image like this to get some of that detail, but it won't be 100% like an LCD sharpness, but we can mimic it quite well. And if you've already got Photoshop, whether you've got it on the knock or whether you paid for it on the drip, you can access this function, and it's nowhere near as expensive as an L series lens. So actually not too bad, that's black tea. So you can't afford the L series lens, you're happy with that picture, but you're aware that it's a little bit soft. So we're going to use a tried and tested process that I learned from Guy Gowan and modified a little bit myself in some stages, but this is pretty much what Guy Gowan teaches, and I've used this process for 20 years best part of. We can't do this on a levels layer, on an adjustment layer, so I'm going to Control Alt and E and merge those into one layer. And what I'm also going to do now, so I don't destruct this picture, I'm going to make a copy of that layer just to do the effect on, so I can more easily show you the before and after once we've done. So we're ready to add the sharpness. So not sometimes when people add sharpness they just sharpen the whole picture. They might go up to, I don't know, filter, what's in the sharpen gallery, sharpen, come on, shows you how much I use sharpen. Right. Did it do anything? I don't even know if it did. Yeah, it did look sharpen. I don't know, there's nothing in there, I can't even see. But what we don't want to do is whack a lot of sharpening on and kill the picture, kill all the detail, all the good work we just done. So we're going to tell the sharpening to only be applied to certain things, and we do that by making a mask. Whenever in Photoshop you want to do something that just applies it to a certain area, we have to make a mask, and we use the channels for this. So if you don't have the channels open, go up to window in there, find channels, get channels, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look on the red channel. So you can click on the red channel like that, so it's just highlighting the red channel, and then we're going to grab hold of that and drag it down to the plus sign there. So we've got a copy. See that? We've got a copy of that. Now what we're going to do, we want to make an inversion of that, because we only want to sharpen bits that are white. And to do that, what I did was I pressed Control and I on the keyboard, and it's inverted it to a negative. So when I apply the sharpening now, it's only going to sharpen the bits that are white. But still, for me, there's too much white here. I don't really want much of this sharpening. All I'm really looking to sharpen is his whiskers, his eyes, and things like that. So what we do is we go to Image, Adjustments, click on Levels, and we pick up loads of levels like that. See that? See it coming through? Yeah, loads of it. Probably a bit too much. I'll just wind it back a bit. Click OK. And now I'm going to use that as my mask. So when I apply sharpening, it will only sharpen the bits that are white predominantly. A little bit of the in-between shades, but predominantly just the white, or where the highlights are. So to load that in as a mask, you press Control, and can you see when I hover across the red copy channel, it gives me a little highlight. If I click on the channel, can you see the marching ants that it's put in there? That's now loaded in. So the luminosity for that channel is now loaded in. So the effect will only be applied to that, what I've selected. Make sense? Hope so. Now, so I can see the picture properly. I'm just going to click on RGB at the top, so I can see the picture again now. But you can see where the marching ants are. That's the only bit where the effect is going to be applied. Nothing that's black, or nothing that's not selected. So, but I don't want to see that while I'm doing it. It's just annoying, it's in the way. So I'm just going to go to View and turn off Extras. So the effect is still there, it's still loaded in, we just can't see it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into Filter, Sharpen, and I'm going to select Unsharp Mask. And I only ever use Unsharp Mask for sharpening, because trust me, I'm a photographer. So if I bring Paddy's face on screen like that, yeah, if I, as you click on like that, as you click on in the background, you can see the effect being added. He says 500%. I'm putting loads on. And the reason I put loads on is the same reason I made a second layer, to put the effect on, because you can put loads on and then you can feather it off until you're at a point where you think you're happy. But this is such a soft lens, I think we might need 500%. So hopefully you can see on your screen here. I'm not convinced you can, but if I switch the preview on and off, you should be able to see around Paddy's eyes and his whiskers sharpening, happening and not happening. Can you see that? Really close to down here, you'll see it being applied. Unsharp, sharp, unsharp, sharp, unsharp, sharp, and actually makes a big difference. So I'm going to OK that at 500%. Now that effect has been loaded in to Paddy's face. So if we just bring them out again, both pictures, if you remember how sharp that one is in comparison. There's 7D Paddy, there's R6 Paddy. Now you can see, now on the left hand side, it's not as, nowhere near as sharp as the one on the right hand side, but it's a lot sharper than it was before. And if we turn off the effect, and if you just look around the highlights, look around the bits that we've told the mask to do, and you can see that if I switch it on and off, you can see that. A good thing to look at is his eyebrows. If I zoom in any more, it'll pixelate, so you won't really see it in effect. But if I see that difference, you can see that quite a lot there when I zoom in. But obviously it looks pixelated. So, but if you view, didn't mean to do that. Turn that off. Fit screen, 100%. If you view it like that, you can see a big difference in sharpness. But we haven't ruined the picture by sharpening everything. We've just sharpened the bits we want to, which is eyes, nose, whiskers. So that is pretty much my process across the years. And it hasn't changed. I've got slightly better kit, slightly newer camera, more experience, but my actual process is exactly the same. Cheap camera, old camera, new camera. And I think if you can get yourself into that mode of process, you know your camera's capabilities, you know how to process a raw file, you know how to sharpen a slightly less than sharp image because you can't afford expensive lenses, then I think if you look at the two pictures side by side, I could spend another hour making them identical in terms of exposure, but I think you saw there's probably a stop and a half, 2 stops difference between the two cameras, even though they were set exactly the same, and that's down to the quality of the lens. The L series lens, it's expensive glass, it has less FX because of the expense, the quality of the glass. Plastic lenses are notorious for throwing things in that you didn't know were going to be there. But having said all that, if you hadn't seen that on the right hand side, would you be happy with that one on the left hand side? Because I know I certainly would be. There's nothing in that picture that makes me think, oh my god. And because we shot it to at f10 look, even the ropes kind of in focus and sharp. So from Paddy to the rope's actually quite sharp, and to his back end, so he's all nice and sharp. It's just not quite as pin sharp as the L series. Now, if you're doing sports and moving targets and all that other kind of sexy stuff, then yeah, L series lenses are your friend. But if you're careful, if you're quick, if you're on it, you can do a hell of a lot of stuff in photography without spending. And it's funny because I did a bit of research this week around cameras and what prices are. I looked on eBay just to see what kind of money you could get a camera for. If you were coming into photography today and you said, I want to get a DSLR, what shall I get? I'd say go and buy a 7D or a 40D or even a 20D and a 10D, because you saw some of my pictures on the last podcast that I shot with them that are just as good as anything I shoot now. And learn the craft, learn the process, learn technique, learn how the camera behaves, learn its quirks, learn how much chromatic abrasion it gives you, learn how much vignette you get naturally on the lens, learn all that stuff, figure its quirks out. I'll guarantee you whatever lens you buy, its sharp point is going to be f11. It just is. That's just how it is. Take some pictures at that point, see how sharp they are. Use the process I've just shown you in, making a mask from a negative, loading it in, only sharpening the bits you want to be sharp. See what you can get. It stood me in good stead for a good few years until I could afford the L series camera. Now I don't do so much sharpening now because as you've seen, you don't really need to when you're using pro lenses, but occasionally it does need that, and I still use the same process. I would use exactly the same process today to fix any kind of slight errors. I've not had to go into what's it called? Fucking hell. I've not had to go into Topaz and make it look like a painting to get it sharp. I've just used a tried and tested process in Photoshop, which I know is going to work because I've been around a long time and I've seen it work. And I think hopefully I've proven to you that all you need is the skill. Keep your money in your pocket. I was going to say before, because I've been searching around looking at price and stuff, suddenly obviously on my social media feeds I've got camera ads, buy this, buy that, buy the other, and I'm seeing people buying, the new Leica M series and all them that are out that are like thousands and like 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. Seeing people, selling a kidney or selling the wife or selling the kids to buy one, and the pictures are rubbish. The pictures are just, I'm gonna like it. Well, so what? You clearly don't know how to use it. You clearly don't know how to get the best out of it. Your pictures aren't sharp. Your colours all over the place. So it doesn't matter what kit you've got. And I explained this at some length in another episode, All the Gear and No Idea, a few months ago, where unless you've mastered what you've got, don't even think about getting something else. A basic DSLR for a few £100. If you're going to mortgage your house or sell a body part, do it to buy a lens, not a camera. Because as you saw between the R6 and the Canon 7D, when you know what you're doing, there ain't that much difference. Not really. Dynamic range has got a bit better, ISO's got better. But when you're in a situation where you're controlling stuff, you don't need much else, trust me. So I did try to take some pictures of lovely Clover while I was out and about, but she's a funny girl because she don't like sitting still. Well, dogs don't do. But I'm just gonna see if I can get a couple that are similar so you can see. This one's not even in focus, look, because she moved. So I can't even show you that, it's not even in focus. Because she was closer to me, I was hoping that I'd be able to show you the difference in sharpness. But again, we're wide open on this one, I think f5.6. Let's see between the two. Let's have a look in the other folder. In the 7D, find one of Chloe where she's outside. Is that even a raw file? Yeah. So I don't know how similar these will be. They don't even look like the R6 ones in focus. But again, yeah, that one's slightly more in focus, isn't it? So that's actually a nicer picture on the 7D. But again, you know, she's in focus, but it's a little bit soft, so just bringing some detail back. Just had a wrong button lens. Just going to put a little bit in there. Check the white balance. Ooh. Yeah, that's more like how she looks. Click OK. Sorry, Paddy, you've had your turn. If we just look at the two, not a million miles between. That one's slightly just in focus there. She must have just moved after the shot. But there's not much in them, is there? But I think you can still see the finer hairs around her eyes. Maybe, hopefully, it's transferring through to you a little bit. 100%. 100%. Yeah, probably not a fair comparison because that one's a bit softer. But that is actually quite nice, isn't it, for a 15-year-old camera with a plastic lens. And, you know, you might not even want to sharpen that up, but if you did, now you know the process. It's quite simple to do it, and you can almost mimic. I'm just going to pinch all that so it's right. You can almost mimic the more expensive lens range, of pro lenses, if you like, if you want to call them that, with your plastic lens, if you know what you're doing. Can you see that? If you look around their eyeballs, quite nice, isn't it, actually, that. Click OK. Is it 100% that? That's not bad for a 15-year-old camera with a less than 100 quid lens on it that feels like a piece of plastic crap. That's actually not bad at all, is it? Not bad at all. And I'm kind of semi-embarrassed actually now that I didn't get one that was that sharp on the R6, because I really should have done, shouldn't I? See how sharp that is. She's a bit of a swine for moving, is our Chloe. She's like, I mean, I don't mean jumping around moving, I mean she just, when she's sitting still looking at you, she fidgets a lot. This is a little bit overexposed on it. Let me bring that back. Go on, Chloe. Oh, she's not that, yeah, she's ginger, but she's not that ginger. Go with that. I just wanted to look how sharp her eyes were with the L series. That was all. I think, yeah, between those two you can see the difference in sharpness, can't you? Bear in mind that one's been doctored a little bit as well. So actually, the L series is quite a bit sharper. Depth of field's slightly better, but I like that, and she's closer up. You always get a bit more throw off when they're closer. But generally speaking, for a 15-year-old camera and a crap lens, I'm quite happy with that. I mean, the picture's crap, it's just a test shot in it, but in terms of quality, why would I be looking at that and thinking, I want to go out and spend 3, 4, 5 grand on a camera and a lens so I can be better? It's not going to happen, is it? It's just not going to happen. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. The idea of being a photographer, touched on this in an episode a while back about what is a photographer. somebody in my mind who controls everything, understands everything, can get the best out of a camera in any situation, and has a workflow from start to print, including the digital bit in the middle, which they can repeat and make good pictures from every time. And if you can't do that, are you even a photographer? I would argue that probably you're not. You're just someone who takes pictures, and there's a difference. So I hope that little unplanned episode today kind of helped you a little bit. If you look at that process, if you look back through my catalogue of 29 other videos now, I will use that process or those processes in most of them. When I'm doing tutorial style stuff, my process doesn't change. So is the raw file. So is the raw file onto the JPEG. See what tweaks can be made there, because you lose something in conversion sometimes. If it's not a retouch, if it's just checking the levels, checking the colour again, checking the sharpness, reframing, cropping, it's all in there in the tutorials. But I will continue to cover these things and bring these things into other episodes as they kind of brain fart into my head, and give me kind of opportunity to shoot, learn a bit, try a little bit of new stuff that I might not have done before or for a while, and bring it to you. But it's interesting to me to see that I've not shot anything on that 7D for, it's got to be 5 years, 6 years since I shot anything on it, and it still works. In fact, it's still got the original Canon battery in it that I got when I bought it in 2010. Still got the original P6 battery, is it, with it from when I bought it, and that the battery grip's separate. I bought that when I was doing a lot of work, but the original LPE6N battery that came with it in 2010 is still holding a charge and will still go all afternoon. Just brilliant, just robust, that, and it's very robust actually, that. So there you go. Get it out your head. You do not need to buy a new camera. You don't need to buy anything. If you're going to buy anything or treat yourself to anything, get yourself a new lens. If you're shooting Canon, get yourself an L series, which are pro level lenses, because the sharpness, the quality of the glass, the light fall off, vignetting, all that other stuff is minimized and the quality is optimized. Bearing in mind, if you've got a crop sensor, make sure you get a lens that fits. Make sure if you've got a full frame sensor, you get a lens that fits. All that other stuff. Put the magazines down. As I was saying, when social media came at me this last few days, buy this, buy that, buy the other, I'm like, if I didn't know any better, I could be looking at that and thinking, oh, go and buy that R5, or I'll go and buy that Sony A9 Mark 3 million, whatever they're up to now, because my pictures will be better. They won't. They'll make you lazier, because semi-auto functions, AI tracking, all that other bullshit you got now, they'll stop you making a few human errors, but they'll take away your ability to use a camera. And whether I'm using any of those, the one that's filming me today, the R6, or whether I've got this old Pentax K1000 lookalike, Centon K100, I can use all 3-4 cameras exactly the same and get good exposures and good pictures out of them all, purely and simply because I know what the fuck I'm doing, because I've been doing it for 20 years, and for the first 5 years I worked my arse off to make sure I knew everything I could. I broke it, busted it, fixed it, made mistakes, got embarrassed, did all of it. I talk about it in a few other videos about getting myself out of the Sunday League and into the Premier League. I did that through fucking gut-busting hard work over years. I probably shot the same that I shot in the first 3 years I was shooting. I probably shot as many photographs as most people will in their own life. And that don't mean I'm a snap happy. That means just I was always practicing, always trying, always getting better, always understanding. Then I married that up with Photoshop. Loads of Photoshop tutorials, did the good ones, did the bad ones. Why Photoshop? Why not Paint Shop Pro? Why not this? Why not that? Why not that? Why Photoshop now? In fact, what I might do in a few episodes' time is do a little comparison of my edit process in Photoshop compared to other brands, and you'll see why I still revert to Photoshop. Even though I don't like their model, I don't like their rent model, I don't like that from anybody. I don't think anybody should have to rent stuff in life. I think we will all work hard. We should be able to buy and own it. That all comes from the World Economic Forum, though. We know that, don't we? You will own nothing and be happy. That mantra, that bollocks. We all know that. And I hate that most of our companies in photography are going down that route. But wherever you can, buy and own. Buy and own. It's important to buy and own. So I hate Photoshop for doing that. But until Affinity and all them other people catch up in terms of quality of the engine behind it all, I can't move, because it's just nowhere near as good. And I might do a video explaining that. But otherwise, I hope you got something out of that. I hope you enjoyed seeing the puppy dogs, Clover and Paddy. I certainly enjoy messing around with them. They're our loves. If you got something in terms of process, great. If you got something in terms of, oh wow, I don't need to sell my camera, great. If you want some advice on cameras, don't ask me, because I'm a photographer, not a salesman, not a gearhead. I don't care about the next camera. I don't care about the latest thing. If it's got function, like a manual setting, not a bridge camera, so you can change ISO, white balance, aperture and shutter, that's all you need. Quality of lens depends on the brand. Get some advice on the best quality lenses, buy them. And go and shoot. And go and shoot and edit, shoot and edit, shoot and edit, shoot, knowing what you got to do in the edit. Learn some edit processes. If you don't use mine, learn some that you can use and repeat, so you do the same thing all the time, so your pictures always come out the same. Helps your style. And just generally enjoy it, and just keep taking pictures. Take pictures. Just keep taking pictures. You can never take enough pictures. Once we've finished here now, I'm going to wrap up, then I'm going to take some pictures. Why? Because I need to practice. It's that simple. So if you're wondering why you're not seeing my face on the screen for the last 10 minutes, it's because I was shooting in 4K and the camera ran out of memory, and I didn't realise. So I'll just wrap it up again by saying thanks for staying with me this far. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, drop me a comment, tell me why you didn't. I've got broad shoulders, I can take it. But hopefully I've enjoyed it and got something out of today. And have a great week, weekend, evening, day, whatever it is you are, whatever it is you're doing. And I'll see you all on the flip side. Cheers.
Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out